this is the Big Friendly Swim podcast, and I'm the Big Friendly host. And today's guest is a British Olympian who recently placed sixth at the Olympics. Angharad Evans, how are you? Also, did I pronounce that right?
I'm good, and it's Angharad, but
Oh, I
most people
missed the
call me
H.
Harry. I know most people forget the G, so at least you're one step ahead of them.
I looked up videos to try and practice.
I do that as well because my grandparents actually used to pronounce it differently than me, but I just go by Angharad.
I'll make sure to get it right next time. So, just to get things started here, talk to me about that initial decision to swim at Georgia in the States in 2021, and then what brought you home.
Yeah, so my mum's American, so swimming in America was always appealing to me. I didn't have to get a visa, American passport, and there's quite a lot of British junior swimmers that head over to America for the training facilities, the weather, and also the team culture. So that's what initially drew me to America. And I got on quite well there at the start when Jack Bowley was head coach. But the training that I was doing was just a lot more than what I'm on now. And I kind of knew that. I knew it wasn't really working for me. But it was difficult to tell because you swim yards over there, and I don't really believe in the conversions. So I didn't really know if I was, I guess, swimming on par to what I should be swimming. But yeah, just after Jack Bowley stepped down, I just didn't really enjoy it as much. I just felt like the training wasn't really suited to me. So I decided to try and find a new program. Initially, it was another program in America. I didn't really see myself swimming in Great Britain, but I'm glad that I made the decision to come back.
I think it can be a lot of change at once to move to the US to go to school, even if you have roots there, and then to adjust to a new coach, and then to have that coach retire and have to adjust to another new coach. It can be a lot of change at once, just back to
Yeah.
back to back. It can be overwhelming.
Yeah, definitely. I wasn't expecting him to step down, so yeah, it was a big change. I actually found out on the plane on the way to America after I had summer off in England. But the training program does suit some people. Some people are swimming really well over there, but personally for me, it just wasn't the program for me. But
Yeah, fair enough. So, bridging off of that, and just to get away from swimming briefly, what are you studying at University of Stirling, and what are you hoping to do after graduation?
so I'm studying business management. I don't really know what I want to do, so that's why I kind of chose a degree that was really broad and you can do anything with it. But I mean, I would love to own a business. I feel like that's really broad as well. But long term, swimming is kind of my main plan. But maybe a swimming business, we'll see.
Well, it seems like swimming is working out for you. Walk me through British trials earlier this year. So, if I'm right about this sequence of events, you initially qualified for the team purely just on the medley relay. And then did you get the call to swim the 100 breaststroke individually before or after going that really fantastic 105.5 and setting a national record?
Um, so I went, I think 105. I just missed out on the qualifying time, which was devastating because I got it a few times before. So I didn't even know if they were going to take a relay. That was up in the air if they were even going to do that. Um, and when they announced the team, that was I think 5 days after. So for those 5 days, it was so hard to drag myself to the pool and train and I told myself that even if I didn't get picked, I'm going to come back stronger and better. But missing out on the Olympics isn't a small thing. But so I was actually on holiday with my mum in Mallorca, and I got the email through. But they didn't really specify what I was going to swim. So I kind of made it my goal to prove to them, come on, take me for my individual swim.
Yeah.
And when I set that record, that was actually in the same pool that trials was at, so it just felt like a redo of that race, which was nice.
Do they hold, I think they did it in 2021, but do they still hold trials at the London Olympic pool?
Yeah, yeah, it actually hasn't been there since, I don't think.
Oh, I
And
had it wrong then.
yeah, well, yeah, I can't remember the last time it was in London Pool. It usually is in Sheffield, which isn't the nicest of pools, but like racing in that pool just makes it feel like a big step up from where it usually is. So that played a part in the mental game.
Because even beyond the like, I think for the Olympics in 2012 they added extra seating like up
Oh,
top.
really?
I might be way off on that,
Probably,
but
because I don't think there's that many seats thinking about it, but
even beyond that, it's still like a historic pool to be able to be at. Like it's only been
yeah.
around for like a little bit over a decade, assuming they built it for the London Olympics. But like
Yeah,
it's
it feels like a new pool.
yeah, like it's there's so much history behind it just in the short time it's been there.
Yeah, definitely.
So in your own words, it's been an emotional few years for you. So what's it been like to go from not knowing if you'd continue swimming to finishing sixth at the Olympics? And then what do you think helped you get to that point?
Um, I feel like it still hasn't really sunk in yet. At the start of last year, joining Sterling, my goal was to find my love for swimming again, enjoy the program. And I didn't really have the Olympics as, I mean, it was always in the back of my mind, but it wasn't realistic until um, probably January when I started dropping a lot more time. But there was a wow, I made it moment when I first walked out in heats. Walking out and seeing that many people watching you in swimming is not very like heard of. And seeing like not even just the British flags, just all the different like cultures and flags there was just really cool to see. But that was probably the moment for me where I was like, oh my gosh, like I've made it. Like a year ago, I really didn't enjoy the sport. I didn't see myself swimming for more, than the year coming forward. But I think it's all down to enjoying the sport. I stand by the phrase "a happy swimmer's a fast swimmer." I don't like dread going to training anymore. I don't, have those like mental battles, like get out of bed and force myself to train hard. So that already put me two steps before like where I was. So
I definitely agree with you. A happy swimmer is a fast swimmer. Like, and sort of like connecting this back to like how you said you were swimming a lot more yards at Georgia. Like that doesn't work for everybody. Like I
no, yeah,
think more and more nowadays, like we're seeing athletes like Cameron McAvoy who are swimming way less yardage and are way happier for it and are still able to produce these world class times.
exactly. We do Yan testing here, and that kind of measures what you should be on, what kind of sets you should be doing, um, which gives the coaches such a good idea when they're like planning out the timetable and stuff, what you should be on, which is really good.
Now, remind me, at University of Stirling, that's the only name that I can think of that also trains there. I mean, he might not anymore, but I think Duncan Scott also trains there.
Yeah. Yeah, he trains here. Katie Shanahan, Jack McMillan, Kathleen Dawson, Lucy Hope. So we have, I think there was, I want to say seven of us for the Olympic team, which is the most there's ever been, which is really exciting and cool to have that many teammates on.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty like loaded training squad to have in one
Yeah,
pool.
definitely. It's a very talented squad, but we all push each other, which is really nice.
So you talked about it earlier, and this was something I wanted to make sure I touched on. You dropped basically like 4 or 5 seconds in your 100 breaststroke over the course of like a year, and
Yeah.
looking at that progression, like I think you were like 109.8 in like 2019, if memory serves. What do you think like helped you? This isn't really an official question that I had written down, but it's becoming one. What do you think helped you go from like from what do
Well,
you think helped you drop that amount of time over the course of like such a short period? There we go. I got the
um,
question out.
I think I pulled the short straw with my timeline. So I went to boarding school for a bit, and that completely did not work out. Again, really disliked the training. And that was kind of in that 109.8 area. And then I moved back and I started to drop time short course, but then COVID hit in long course season around March, so I didn't really get a chance to race there. And then I went to America and didn't really race long course there. And I came back and um, managed to get a 108. And I was over the moon with that. I was so fine with staying at a 108. But since moving to Sterling, it's just such a professional program. Like we have, I do lots of like video work. Like as I said, like the training's so like specific to what I need. I'm not doing a 200 backstroke set. I'm doing everything that I need to do, and everything in and out the pool is tailored for swimming. So now it's more like a full-time job than what it was before. Before it was more academics and then swimming your, I guess, free time. But the coaches here just genuinely want the best for their swimmers and are so open to if I'm like, hey, Brad, who's my coach, I don't think this is working, then they're so like open-minded to hearing you out. And I haven't had that in past programs. They think that they know best, which a lot of the time, the coach does know best, but it's nice that they're so open-minded and they take into account what I think I need, because I knew in Georgia that's not what I needed and I didn't think I was listened to there. So it's nice that we all work together for the end goal rather than coach versus swimmer battling it out.
I think you're exactly right. Like, it necessarily, like, sometimes a swimmer may not know exactly what they need, but, like, just the ability to talk about it and just open that dialogue can be invaluable towards, like, in the future, they might be able to recognize what they need better by virtue of having that conversation with their coach.
Definitely.
And also touching on, you were talking about yard swimming earlier. I hate yard swimming so much.
Same, so do
I
I.
hate it
I just
so
There's
much.
not enough pull for me to build up that momentum. And it took me such a long time to like figure out how to race it. And by the time I did, I was heading on a plane back to the UK to swim. So,
We have one 25-meter pool. I live in California in like the Bay Area. I'm
okay,
not sure if you know I'm not sure if you know that phrase. It's like Central California-ish.
okay.
Um, we have one 25-meter pool, and I think it's the only one in the state that's
Oh my
purely
God.
25 meters. That's not like 50 meters split up. It's just a 25, and there's been like world records set at this pool. And
I
my
bet.
old club team, we'd practice there, and it was amazing. And I was like,
It's
I was
so
like, I don't know
good.
why these extra 2.5 yards, they just complete me.
It does. I mainly train long course now, but when we go to short course, like 3 or 4 times a week, that even feels short to me. So if I went back to yards now, I think I would just be underwater the whole time, come up, and I have to turn.
Oh,
Like,
I loved lawn course. There's not a lot of lawn course infrastructure in the U.S. in general, but especially in the area that I live. There's one, two, three. I think there's four lawn course pools within like a 30-40 minute drive.
oh wow. See, I never really understood why yards is
Me
such a
neither.
big thing. Like NCAA's is so much fun, but at the same time, like all the major meets, like Worlds for us Europeans, Olympics, like it's all long course. So I would have thought they wanted to get, the practice in, but you can't really fault USA swimming. They're breaking world records left, right, and center, so something's going well.
I mean, I think like having the underwater portion of yards is definitely there, and it's definitely like you notice a lot of athletes that train in the U.S. develop their underwaters rapidly,
Yeah,
but it's still like, why do we have yards?
I know.
I've never heard a good explanation from somebody who likes yards as to why
Yeah,
we have it.
it's tradition now. I can't get rid of
Yeah,
it.
I mean, it used to be in like Olympic years, NCAA's would swim short course meters.
Oh, I didn't know
It was way, I mean, it was way back. This is the level of like swim nerd that
that.
I've become. I think the last time they did it was 2004, where they swam
Oh
short
wow.
course meters at NCAA's, and I'm like,
They
that
just
would be
decided it
so
was too long.
cool.
Yeah.
There was like world records set at the meet. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know why they
Well, if
stopped
if
doing it.
if NCAA's was meters, there probably would be a lot more records set. So I guess it bodes well for the UK that it's not in meters.
Well, I mean, like University of Virginia had one short course meters meet, and Gretchen Walsh set three American
Yeah,
records and broke the world record in the 100 IM.
I saw that. I
So I'm
was so
like,
confused. I was like, I thought it was yard swimming, but no, that was crazy. I opened my phone and I was like, that's
So I'm
insane.
like, there's potential there. Like there's
Yeah.
untapped potential in doing short course meters. So besides your Olympic final, because I'm assuming that's probably the race that you at this point put as most critical to your development.
Yeah.
What race do you think like you could pinpoint over your career that's been like the race that sets you up for the future the most?
Um, there's two in mind. The first one wasn't even an official race. It was in December. Um, and it was so in Sterling we do lots of race simulations. So it'll be like exactly like a race day, but it's just like our squad. And I just came back from I guess our like end of season, short course meet, and we were doing some long course simulations before we went back for Christmas. And I think at that point, I want to say my PB was a 107. And we, it was the end of our taper because we just had that meet, and I was kind of holding on to that taper, but I was quite sore from all the racing. And I think in the final I went a 106.3, I want to say. And I hadn't been 106 before, and that was kind of like the okay, like maybe I could qualify for the Olympics if this like carries on. Like this could just be a fluke, but like I'm hoping it's not. But then it was like nice to go home for Christmas and I guess reflect on the half of the season that I had. But I think going that time, especially in December, just really opened my eyes to um how well Sterling was working for me and how well I got on with the coaches and teammates. And it was, I guess, that driving factor to make sure that everything for the next few months was perfect leading into trials. But I mean, the other race, which is probably pretty obvious, is the Olympics. I think it's just so different from any other meet I've been to. Like the crowd, the noise, like even in the call room, sitting in a call room with Lily King, like all these like well-known athletes. Like I was back there fangirling, but I should have been focusing. But no, it's just really cool to see all these like professional athletes, even from other sports, like walking around the village and just seeing all these, top athletes. But that meet at Olympics, I really had to focus on my nerves. The most nervous I was for the heats, just because I walked out and it just hit me like a train how nervous I was. So the psychologist made me sit beside outside lane 7, which is where I was going to race, and just look up at the crowd and make sure I wasn't like intimidated by them, and just stare down that lane and like focus on everything that I needed to. And you can see in the videos, like I'm just so much more relaxed walking out for the semis and the finals, and just kind of went in it with, there's no pressure. A year ago I was going 109, so I'm just, thankful to be here.
I totally get that feeling of like being surrounded by so many of these people that both you've looked up to greatly, but also just being surrounded by that high of a level of elite athletes, whether it be from swimming or other sports.
Hmm.
It's it's obviously not as high of a level for me, but like when I went to Olympic trials this year for the US, because I went there as like a journalist to cover the meet. It
Okay.
was it was I'd gone to like I'm not sure if you heard of like US Golden Goggles, like the awards thing they do. They do like an
No.
awards thing at the end of the year
Okay.
for like all the top races and male race of the year, female race of the year. So I got to go and cover that like last November, and it was like an hour and a half. Like it was in Los Angeles, like a 6 hour drive south for me. But then I got to go to Olympic trials, which was I was gone
Yeah.
for 2 weeks, and it was surrounded by like there was people from like NBC, there was people from like Associated Press, like all these established like
Yeah.
journalists, and I'm just sitting there like big friendly
Yeah.
swim podcast. Hi,
Yeah. I'd be the same.
but I get that feeling of like just being kind of starstruck by like, oh my god, hi.
Yeah.
But like eventually it settles in for you that like you've earned your spot there, and that like even if like in your case, like even if like you'd gotten eighth in the final, like that's still eighth in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the main person I was fangirling over was Ruta. I just remember watching her win the one breast in London. And I think we had to make profiles for like my home club when I was like 12, and it was like, who's your idol? And it was Ruta. And it was just so cool. But took me a while to like feel like, oh, like I'm one of them, like I can go around the same time as them. But no, it was really cool.
I was so heartbroken for her. I had her. I was hoping that she'd win, and it would be like an Anthony Irvin esque story. Like
Same,
I was so ready for that comeback. Like 12 years
same.
later,
So I was like, I obviously I want to win, but if one person's gonna beat me, it can be Ruta.
and that final was so close.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, it
like it
was.
was insane.
Yeah, yeah, it was. I think I took it out a bit too quick. But I mean, that's why it's such a good experience for me. But it was, yeah. I mean, to be honest though, like in the grandest scheme, the times weren't that fast. Like I thought there would be like a 104
That's true. Like
on the
105-2-1, and nobody went 104.
yeah. But it was just such a close final. Like everyone was just like neck and neck to each other. So
I mean, I think that was like that ended up kind of being true of a lot of races at the Olympics. Like
yeah.
it was so weird. Like people were like, "Is the pool slow? Is the pool not slow?" But it was like there was some races where like it seemed like the pool depth affected it less.
hmm Yeah.
But like even
Yeah,
like the
I
men's
thought
200, or sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, everyone asked, do you think it played a part in your swimming? But everyone's racing in the same pool. Like it's just who can get the hands to the wall first.
Exactly.
It's not like my lane's like 2 meters deeper than like someone else's. Unless it was, then that would make sense. But
Exactly. Like in like the men's 200 freestyle final, for example, like some of those guys had been 2 seconds faster this year, but like in the end, like the gold medal is going to matter more than the time. Like
exactly.
the result will matter more than the time, and I don't think David Popovich or any of those guys in that final are going to care that they went like 144.7. Like
Yeah.
they're not going to be thinking, or like Nicolo Martinienghi in like the 100 breaststroke. Like he's not going to care that he went 59.0. Like he's like, I got a gold medal around my neck. What does it matter?
Yeah, Olympic champion. You just wouldn't even cross your
Yeah.
mind.
So what's an average week of training look like for you? Like how often do you practice? Like how long is a practice?
So each of our practices are 2 hours. Gosh, it's been a while since I call it practice. We call it training. Um, but it's twice on a Monday. So it's double Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, single Wednesday, Saturday, and then just gym 3 times a week. But like it's more sessions than I was doing at Georgia, but like we don't always use all of them. So sometimes we have like Friday mornings off if it's been a heavy week. And we do two like hard weeks where they run you to the ground and then one regen week. So it's like just as many meters, but it's not as like tough training, which is nice. And then like two more hard weeks. But yeah, this training's just really worked for me so far. And I'm enjoying it since coming back from the Olympics. We've like really taken it slow. So we're only training, I want to say 7 times a week. So it's Friday morning, and I'm like done for the weekend. So we still have like 3 day weekends, which is so nice. But we start back our full schedule next week. So better weekend for me.
That's interesting actually. Like that's a interesting training structure, but like it seems like it's one that would work fairly
hmm
well to have like those 2 weeks of just like hard
Yeah,
training, and then to not cut the yardage down. It's almost like a miniature version of a taper where like you're not
yeah.
cutting the yardage but you're cutting the intensity. Like
hmm
that's a pretty interesting training structure. It's not one that I've like heard before, but like it sounds very appealing.
No, neither. When I first joined her, I didn't realize it was a thing, and it was my third week, and they were like retail, and I was like, "What is this? This is so nice." But it just really helps because in past programs I've just been so run to the ground where like I'm struggling to stay afloat. So it's nice to like catch up and like recover and catch up on physio and like just also mentally reset for the 2 hard weeks. And then when it is the 2 hard weeks, you can really just put it in 150% and make that training count.
I mean, especially knowing that like in this amount of time you're going to be able to like recover and swim
Hmm.
some like some lower intensity stuff. Like
Hmm.
I've seen it happen time and time again, both to like professional athletes and to college athletes, but even like when I was in high school on a club level, I saw it happen so many times where like people would feel burned out, me included, because
Hmm.
we just do like high intensity all the time.
Yeah.
I have to shout out my club coach here. Actually, I started training with him when I was about like 15, and I was with him for about 3.5 years. He was excellent at like making sure that every amount of yardage that we did was was focused on something. Like
Yeah.
we do 4 practices a week. We'd swim more than 4 practices a week, but we do four
Okay.
days a week. Each day would be centered around a specific stroke for warm up. So it'd be like
Yeah.
30 minutes for warm up of like just butterfly work or just breaststroke work or just backstroke work or just freestyle work, and then all the sets felt very tailored to like what we needed to do,
Yeah.
despite the fact that like we were like 30 people, and it was like I don't know how we managed
Yeah.
to do it, how we managed to make everybody feel like they were. This is like a club
Yeah.
program. I'm like, this shouldn't be that shouldn't be possible like this. But like,
Yeah. Yeah, that was a big thing in America. Like we do um finish our main set and then we do a whole nother set which like I knew like deep down like I was like why am I doing this and everyone would call it garbage yardage but there's just none of that here like with everything that you're doing like it's there's a reason behind it and the reason behind it but I mean doing that many different strokes probably built your IM up, I'm guessing.
oh, I was a 400 IM swimmer in
There we
college,
go.
and like I swim distance too. So like I was always one of the people who was swimming the most yardage.
Oh,
But I never minded because like I was lucky that my coaches, it felt like they were giving me like if I was doing 3100s a freestyle, like it never felt useless because it'd be like
yeah.
3100s where like every third 100 was fast, or like we had my coach loved this set called BS 21 where it was 21 100s. Let's see if I remember this. It's been a few years. I believe every third one is fast, and then I believe every, or sorry, every multiple of three is IM, and then every seventh one is fast,
Okay.
and then the 21st one is a 200 instead of a 100.
Oh no.
So it was like
You
every
just
third one
know
would
the
be
whole
fast.
set that that's coming.
Yeah, you know the whole set that's coming, but it's also the last thing you have to do. So it's
That's
like,
true.
but it's stuff like that where I'm like, okay, this doesn't feel useless. This feels like it's helping my freestyle and my IM. Like we're
Yeah,
doing a little bit of both.
for
But I've
sure.
always hated like when there's coaches who just give out like we're doing 3200s. Go. See you later. I'm gonna be on my phone.
Yeah, yeah. All the same, all the same. It's just mentally hard. Like I get it could help physically, but just mentally, like you just don't want to be there for that many 100s doing the same thing. But I mean, saying that this morning, I think I had 24 100s, but like it changed. Like it was in sets of like six or
Yeah.
something. It changed each time. Um, but
But I think like even doing sets like that, like every once in a while, or at the beginning of a season, I
yeah,
think is fine just to build up a base, like to build up that aerobic base. But like it shouldn't be the only thing that you're doing. Like if you're gonna have a set
no,
every once in a while that's just straight yards for like an hour and it's just there to build up an aerobic base, like that's fine. But it shouldn't be like every single day we're doing a
yeah,
1,000 yards straight. Go.
yeah, yeah. I like how much our training changes. Like Monday nights, I'll be on like 2.5K, which is so nice, but it'll just be technical work and sprints, so lots of like 25s. And then the next day will usually be like a key set. So that will be like the 24 100s or something with some max 50s. But like each session is different, which is nice. Like it could be 5K, it could be 2.5K. But it's not like every time you're going in, it's going to be threshold 5K freestyle. So again, that like mentally helps getting myself to the pool for those 10 sessions.
There was one of my favorite sets we'd ever do, and this one we'd only do it on Saturdays because our Saturday practices were 2.5 hours, and that was the only time that we'd have time for it. Was we'd warm up for 30 minutes, and then it's a set that is pulled from, I believe, University of Auburn, back when they were like a sprint powerhouse in like the late 2000s.
Okay.
Um, it's 125s, but it's
Ooh.
broken up as 10 sets of 10, and in between each set of 10 there's like easy swimming. So you do 10 25s all out on the minute, and then a 50 easy, and then 10 25s all out on the minute again, and then a 100 easy, and then the interval drops by 5 seconds for each set of 10, but the
Oh,
amount of rest you're doing goes up by a 50.
okay. Oh, I don't know if that counts as well. That
It
last
doesn't
round was
really.
so
It's
painful.
by the time I got to, I think the last round you're doing 10 on the 20. So I 100% was putting on fins. But the
I
goal
think
at
that would
least
be,
is to try to hold the same pace as you go down.
yeah, that would be just 10:25 straight for me if it was breaststroke.
It sneaks up on you like you're at
Yeah.
like 10 25s on like the 45, and you're like, this is easy. I'm chilling. I'm
Yeah.
fine. And then you're doing 10 on the 25 and you're like crying.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine doing that set. Watch my coach give it to me like next week.
I'll tag him this. He'll see the interview and he'll be like, "All right, I'm on it."
Oh no, no.
It's a brutal set, but like I remember always having a lot of fun with it. But maybe I'm just a masochist.
I feel like I'd enjoy it if like one round it was like breaststroke with like fins and you have to do freestyle kick and like 10 of them from the block, 10 of them from like a static start, like changing that up.
Oh,
But
yeah, there's definitely variations you can do with it. I mean, like when I'd be swimming on my own and I didn't have as much time, I'd just cut it in half and I just do 50 25s.
don't blame you.
Because I'm like, I don't have 2.5 hours to just.
No.
So my last question for you, just to wrap things up here, and this is one that I always am understanding of, like if people don't share a lot of because goals are important. But where do you hope to go from here? Like, what are some of the things you'd like to do over these next couple of years?
Um, Definitely have my eyes on LA. See you in America. But as of now, I mean we have Worlds in summer, Commonwealth Games, so I feel like each year there's like an end
Yeah.
piece puzzle, I guess, but it's all I guess working towards the next 4 years. So I guess next Olympics is definitely my priority, but I've only raced one international meet with GB, being the Olympics. So between now and then, I'm gonna need to, I guess, get as much race practice as I can in internationally. So I have World Short Course in December. Hopefully Worlds, but I think Commonwealth will be
Which they
really
finally
interesting.
they finally figured that out, right?
Yeah, I was
There
gonna
there
say
was some
last year
question mark of like if they were gonna even be doing the meet.
it's 40 minutes down the road from here, which is nice. Um, so I mean, saying that I still need to qualify first. But I think that will be really interesting because um, Commonwealth isn't really like any other meets. I guess it's kind of like the Olympics, where it's like a standout meet. But um, yeah, I mean, within my race, there's a lot of things that we have to focus on. We just did a race simulation yesterday, and watching the videos back, I'm like, oh, those underwaters. But no, definitely race practice. Last season, I kind of put myself out there. Got some times that obviously I'm very happy with, but now it's building from that. How can I shave off another point 0.2, point 0.1? but race experience is definitely what I need internationally, and I guess focusing on controlling those nerves. And yeah, I guess that's a broad, broad goal.
I made this joke to Hannah Miley, who like was my fifth ever interview that I did like 3 years ago.
Really?
And I remember being so excited because I'm like, oh my god, I'm interviewing somebody outside of the United States because I've never done that before. She was so nice. But I made this
Yeah.
joke to her. I'm like, I think I'm the only person in the United States who actually pays attention to Commonwealth Games.
Really?
I like,
I didn't. Yeah. I
I mean,
mean,
like
I didn't know.
no one around me. I'll ask my coach. I'm like, oh, did you see what so and so swam at Commonwealth Games? And he's like, what's Commonwealth Games? And I'm like, are you kidding?
What? That's crazy. Because I get it if it was just like, you know, the UK countries, but I mean Australia's in
Yeah.
it. There's
I mean, I'm
definitely
sure
gonna be
like
world
the
records
elite
linked to it.
level swimmers like pay attention to it, and like I'm sure it's an exaggeration to say I'm the only one who does, but like at least in like
Yeah.
my immediate swimming circle, that like
Yeah.
no one really watches it. I'm like, come on.
I surely they will now that like Summer McIntosh and like Kaylee and all them will be in it.
I hope so because I'm always like a big proponent of like just watch swimming,
Yeah.
like just
Yeah. I mean,
get
we all
more
watched
eyes
the
on the
American
sport.
trials,
Yeah.
so time for you
Oh,
to watch us.
I was up at like 3 4 in the morning watching the World Cup meet.
Oh, really? I
Like
can't say I did that,
I
but
fell asleep in my chair.
oh my gosh. I think it's like 3 in the morning for us. So I'm fast asleep, but I'll
It
open my
should
phone in the
be
morning.
for you guys. I think it should be very early in the morning if my math is
Yeah.
right. Because for me, it's 3:30 a.m. and it's 6:30.
Oh,
I don't know. The time zones are gonna destroy
yeah.
my brain trying to think about it. But you guys are 8 hours ahead, and then I think South Korea is 8 hours ahead of you. I don't know.
Um, I can't do the maths right now,
It's
but
I can't either. It's not.
that's not close.
It's not gonna happen. All right. Well, Angharad, thank you so much for sitting down with me. It was so lovely to get to chat with you. I'm really excited to see where you go from here.
Thank you so much for having me.
You have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, you too. Enjoy watching Worlds.
Yeah, I will.